Every 3 years we hear the same readings. So in 2016 we heard this parable about the poverty of Lazarus and the shameless complacency of the rich man about Lazarus's plight. In 2016 I prepared today's homily and tucked it away for 2019. I'm glad I found it. Made the week easier. Now earlier that month, on September 4th, the church celebrated the canonization of Saint Teresa of Calcutta, and our local newspaper had a few articles highlighting her. And on that day, I learned we had a parishioner who had passed away. The homily. Lazarus was living at the door of the rich man. And Lazarus was neglected by the man living just on the other side of the door, on the inside. The newspaper, the La Crosse Tribune, had a feature article about Teresa of Calcutta's visit to Winona, Minnesota on June 20th to the 22nd in 1974. And she was at an evening prayer service at the Cathedral of the Sacred Heart, where she said some significant things. Quote, "The poor are the salvation for us all, for we will be judged on our love." And she had some nice insights. She said, hunger is not only for bread, but for love, for understanding. We think of poverty as being hungry for bread, naked of clothing, and homeless. But there is a greater poverty, the poverty of not being wanted, of being unloved, of being naked of knowledge, and being lonely. This kind of poverty is with us all. And then she also provided another insight. She urged her listeners to look into their own homes as she asked, are we too busy? Are we too busy to have time for our own children, our husbands, wives, or neighbors? Do we take time to understand our own people, those closest to us, to smile at them? And Mother Teresa went on to say, our sisters do the humble work that no one else has time to do. And she described the work with the lepers and the dying and abandoned children. And she said, you and I must bring God's love to everyone. We are responsible for the happiness in the world. And if we want peace in the world, let us make our own homes, our own communities happy. You see, the work of charity, bringing God's love and God's happiness to others, is our responsibility. But it is not limited to heroic acts of feeding the impoverished, sheltering the homeless, and comforting the dying. What good is it if we do these kinds of heroic acts while neglecting the people that we live with? We are to be attentive to our own homes and the Lazaruses that might be right outside our front door, in our own neighborhoods, our own community. The funeral. On September 3rd, 2016, Harry Nunemacher died. He's survived by his wife Jerry, 5 boys and a girl. And he was described in many ways of kindness, going the extra mile for people. And they said he was the kind of guy, if you saw like a car broken down on the side of the road, he'd pull over and the kids would be like, no, Dad, let's keep going, let's keep going. But no, he just wanted to, let's just help him get on his way. He would do anything for anyone. This is how he was described. And he was active at St. Pius and in the broader community, especially as a coach, baseball in particular, and as an umpire with youth leagues. And years ago, while he was still raising his kids, somebody asked him, "You have such nice kids. How do you do it?" And Harry said, "Well, the garage is always messy and the grass needs mowing, but you get to it when you can." And he focused on his kids, and testimony to this was on the front lawn. They had 2 dirt spots where grass couldn't grow because this is where they pitched and played catch. Visible proof of taking care of those inside the door. Today's parable isn't simply for wealthy people or those who are called to heroic acts of charity. We are responsible for the happiness of one another, for the person closest to our front doors, but especially for those who live inside the doors with us.